Lights up!
Everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Lights Up, Putney Theatre Company's podcast, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined here today by three of our cast members from Alligators, our studio production that's showing from the 18th until the 22nd of February. Now I'm here with Jim and Alexa, who are long-standing members of Putney Theatre Company, so you will know them from various shows. But also I'm delighted to introduce Lily, who is brand new to PTC, so welcome.
Hello.
Lovely to have you here.
I'm very happy to be here, thank you.
Oh, no, I'm going to start off. I'm going to ask Jim first, because I think everyone's read the blurb on the website, I'm sure, and seen the flyers, and they sort of know a little bit about it. But Jim, you play Daniel. What is he to do with the play? And how is he integral to the action?
Daniel is a very enthusiastic history teacher. He is a loving husband and father. And then at some point, allegations are made by a former student of a sexual nature against him. And this play examines the effects that has on him and his relationships, and also the people around him, and even widely around him, as these allegations start to spread and rumours start to spread like wildfire.
So how long has Daniel been teaching for?
He's been teaching for just shy of 20 years.
Oh, right, so long established teaching career and successful.
Yeah.
And he loves that, and he's popular.
He is quite obsessed with being popular. He likes to be liked, and he loves teaching. He's very passionate about it.
So I'm assuming that when this allegation happens, this is a bombshell to him, not just personally, but obviously for his career and his life in general. And does he remember any of this? I mean, is it just sort of out of the blue, or...?
At first, it is completely out of the blue and, as you say, an absolute bombshell. He is completely unexpected. Before he even knows what it's about, he sort of laughs it off because he thinks it's so ludicrous that this could be happening.
Right.
But things get very real quite quickly.
So because he's not had any other historic allegations, so I imagine when you've been having a teaching career for 20 years and suddenly this happens, you start doubting everything. And I'm also assuming that, of course, in the age that we're now living in, that we're very much more aware of our behaviour towards younger people.
Well, I think that's quite key. And then also, it's not so much Daniel doubting himself, it's the fact that as these rumours spread, you end up with a bit of a crucible situation where there's kind of no such thing as innocent until proven guilty in this age of social media and tabloid media. And I think that's largely what it's about. And then the other thing is where, as far as the doubting goes, is obviously the relationship between him and his wife, Sally, and his colleagues, everybody else in his life.
Because some people must be sitting there in the staff room. I mean, you can imagine it, can't you? Sort of whispering behind their marking and their coffee cups going, well, did he do that? Well, I don't know. You can actually hear it, can't you, really?
Yeah.
Now, Alexa, you play Sally, Daniel's wife. Now, how long have you guys been married for?
Quite a long time, because our older daughter's 9. We've probably been married a bit before that, so it's over 10 years, I think we sort of talked about. So it's a long time. It's a well-established, loving relationship. It's got that stability. They've got 2 children. Everything's sort of ticking along very nicely. The beginning of the play is, I think, a scene most people would recognise in a relationship.
Yeah, and you have a newborn.
Yeah, so sort of beginning of the play, Barney, who's the youngest, is definitely still baby, probably a few months old. So Sally, it's not the most glamorous role. She is knackered.
Right, well, I think any mother can probably tell you that.
Yeah, so it's, there's a balance there of while all of this is going on, she's trying to keep everything together and be supportive, but she is trying to do that while still being a mom at the same time, probably doing all of the sort of background stuff that we all do, well, women do, especially within households, and would do even more when our other half needs us.
And so how do you think, or how has this devastating news, affected Sally? I mean, personally, but also with your relationship with Daniel.
Well, to her it doesn't make sense. It's there. She questions it a lot, and it just seems absurd because this is somebody he'd never do it.
Right, because when there's someone you know so well and you're married and you love him, you think, how could that possibly be true?
But it does strain the relationship.
Because there's a seed of doubt.
It's not just that. It's when you've got somebody who's going through... It's I think, probably one of the most horrific things you could have to deal with. Because I don't think any of us could imagine it, and something that Daniel's having to deal with is so much of his life comes under a microscope. We've sort of talked about... It just sort of feels like everything in your past can be picked apart and looked at in a way it probably wasn't looked at when you said it at the time. And,
well, I was going to say, and how it's manipulated and taken out of context.
Yeah.
And I think that now we live in, as you touched on, Jim, that an age of social media, you can basically spin anything. And thank the Lord that, in my youth, we didn't have social media. Phew. So, but you think now you have to be so ultra careful. And I'm assuming as a teacher as well. I mean, I don't know if you've done your research and spoken to friends who are teachers or asked them how they have to sort of monitor their personal lives.
Well, I work for a performing arts school, darling.
Of course you do. Oh, how convenient. Marvellous.
So I sort of see it talking to the faculty at work, and also I'm in the marketing department, but still within the admin department as well. Just you really need to fine-tooth comb any kind of statement that's made. I think what's interesting, and I want to touch on a point. It's not the did he, didn't he, that is the point of this show. It's examining the effect on the lives of this family, and also I think it's up to the audience to decide how well Daniel deals with it, and whether he's dealt with it with utmost grace or if he's not.
Right.
So
now, talking about maybe not, we will introduce Lily. Now, Lily, you are playing Rachel.
Yes.
Daniel's lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So were you, as a lawyer, assigned to Daniel, or did he know you before? What's the sort of relationship there?
So I think Daniel definitely found me through a close friend or a family member, and they clearly knew he needed help, and I think it was the most affordable way to go about it.
So how experienced is Rachel, do we think, in dealing with these sort of cases?
So I'd say that she has trained really well at really good law schools, but I would say this is about her second or third client. So she's still quite fresh, but so she holds a professionalism, and I think that's what she also tries to prove as well, as she is quite young, and it's a lot for all the characters. But
I'm also just going to say, because these kind of cases are very difficult to prove, aren't they? It's like he said, she said.
Yes.
So from a young lawyer who's trying to make their mark in the industry, in the profession, that's quite a tough case to start off in your career. You don't know Daniel, but you've been recommended by a friend. Mm-hmm. So how is your relationship? How is your relationship when you first meet Daniel?
So I think it's quite a funny first interaction in the sense of the contrast between the awkwardness and the nervousness of Daniel, but then how professional and stoic Rachel's being and not really budging. Whereas, as we've said, I feel like Daniel loves to be liked, and he's clearly very nervous because of these allegations that are coming out, and he has no idea really how any of it goes. So I guess Rachel's there to prove a point of professionalism, but she's not budging in the sense of he tries to get personal at times, but she just keeps it very, very strict and professional.
And that's a joyous thing about lawyers as well, isn't it? Almost cold in many ways.
Well, the coldness certainly gets across to Daniel. He implies that she's robotic at one point.
Oh, that's nice.
But I don't take that well.
No. But he's a teacher who likes to have people on side and listening to him. I think there's also a slight infantilized element of Daniel. He's the boy that never wanted to leave school, which is a big contrast to the professionalism of Rachel. And then also it's just, I think there's an indignity there that he's suddenly having to have all these strangers come into his house and question him. And you mentioned how difficult these kinds of cases are to prove. Well, audiences will see the extremes that are gone to in order to find evidence. And it's deeply unpleasant.
And it's a complete disruption of family life. You've got a baby's not going to notice, but when you've got a child, they're going to notice. And you don't want to talk to them about it because I suppose there's an element of, well, this is just happening and it will all go away. So why on earth? And it would all be back to normal. normal's a word that gets used quite a bit, and it's why would you want to disrupt the status quo? And also, how do you explain that?
So how do you explain it to your daughter? So Genevieve is younger than the ex-student who has accused you of impropriety.
Yes.
So she's young enough not to sort of have an inkling but not understand what it is. Am I right?
She knows something's up, but has no idea what's up, because as good parents, Sally and Daniel are hiding and keeping it from her, and finding, I suppose, the best excuse is little white lies that parents can in that scenario of why things are missing or why something was moved. And her involvement in the play is quite interesting because she is aware but not fully aware of what's going on.
Well, she actually coins the phrase for the title of the play, doesn't she?
Yes.
That's right.
Because, am I right, and she misunderstands allegations and then thinks she hears alligators.
Yeah.
That's right.
So now, your relationship, Rachel and Sally. So, Sally, am I thinking you're none too plussed with the uber attractive Rachel waltzing into your lives?
I think Sally's very annoyed that we keep talking about whether Rachel's attractive. Oh, absolutely. She's another person telling her things she doesn't want to hear. They have a lot of people who are strangers coming into their home, and it is a safe place. It's stability, and suddenly when you've got people coming in, I speak from recent experience. I got evacuated. I was out of my flat for 8 days last year because of gas leak, and it required work to be done to change the gas supply. And the thing that really disturbed me the most was I wasn't being told when people coming in and out of my flat. I'd go back to it and the door was open. It's not a pleasant experience having people in your home space, and certainly isn't pleasant when they suddenly are in charge, which...
Well, it's a consummate invasion of your privacy, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So that particularly touching things. Do you sort of have that almost feeling sort of guilt by association when they're sort of coming around, moving things, taking things and thinking, oh my God, what is on the computer?
Yeah, well, interestingly, Sally stays very physically separated from that. So she leaves the flat.
Does she? Every time they come
every
in?
time they come round. She offers to the willingness to stay and be supportive's there, but that's very much a separation that starts to be created. And I don't know about you, but it feels almost like Daniel's trying to protect Sally from some of it.
Daniel's definitely trying to separate Sally from all of this. I think it's partly protective of her and it's partly protective of himself. He doesn't want her to be part of this process or to see anything that she doesn't want to see.
That it could also be seeing you in perhaps a less favourable light.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we've touched on, obviously, the theme of the historic allegation and also the impact on relationships. What are the other themes of the play?
Oh, well, I think certainly, again, we've touched on social media and just the way these rumours spread. I think it's kind of like the negative side of community in a way. And whether that's the other teachers at the school, just people living nearby, and then eventually national media, this obsession that we have with wanting to see guilt and dirty secrets in other people. Daniel says at one point, your whole life under the microscope and you did nothing to deserve it. How would that feel for any of us?
Well, that's a very good point, isn't it? But that mentality has been with us since the dawn of time. That sort of gang mentality. Maybe it's because it's rather them than me. But I think you're right on the social media, that if we look at it today and how warped it is and how you can basically say anything, particularly as, am I right in saying Facebook no longer fact check anything?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's now down to community.
And so what about Sally? What are the other themes for her, do you think?
It's the relationship she has with her husband, and it's the strain that she starts to feel on that relationship. And that, again, to a point Jim's made, it's not about did he, didn't he. It is about how you deal with a partner going through something awful, and something where, because, for Daniel, this happened a very long time ago, and life has moved on. It means that when Sally's trying to support and sort of understand, okay, so what did happen, and there's probably a way around this, and sort of do the reassuring bit of like, well, right, that explains it, and that's fine, and we're going to be fine, and it's good. It gets very confusing for her at points, because it is confusing for Daniel, and we also have to cope as the storyline progresses with this kind of investigation where they will dig down as deep as they can go on both sides to make a case, because it is she said, he said situation. It means they're going through this, like, I think about it a bit like a hamster wheel. So every time you feel like you've got back to the beginning, it kind of kicks your ass again and you sort of flip round.
But do you think that this case would ever come to court today? I'm going to ask the lawyer in the house, that given the amount of circumstantial evidence.
Yes, I do. I
Do
think, yeah, they're taken so seriously. And I feel like even playing this role, I'm still learning a lot about these sort of allegations and criminal law in general. And I think that's a crazy thing about playing this character, is because as an actor, I'm trying to learn how to think like a criminal lawyer, which is so new to me. And my brother's actually a lawyer, so
Is he?
yeah,
Oh, that's quite handy.
definitely, and he's very proud. But at the same time, it's very challenging actually, but it's very rewarding at the same time. So
But
yeah,
lawyers think in black and white though, don't they?
very black and white, and I'm the opposite, I'd say.
Well, I was going to say, as creators,
Yeah.
that is an anathema to us, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Because we are grey everywhere, certainly not black or
Absolutely.
white.
Yeah, so I think it's really been fun prepping for this role, definitely with that.
So you're being directed by the fabulous Amanda Benzecry. Now, most of our listeners will obviously know Amanda as being on stage. So this is her first directorial debut in the studio, which is a fabulous place to direct, isn't it? Oh, I love that space so much. So how's it going?
I have to say, I knew that it would be intense. I knew that it'd be emotionally draining at times.
Yeah.
And I knew that all of us, but I'm going to say me in particular, had a novel's worth of lines to learn. But actually, it's also been a lot more fun than I expected, which for my 20th show, you'd think I know that this is fun. But
20th show,
it is,
shut
yeah.
up, Jim. Come
Well,
on.
actually, it has been fun. And obviously for Amanda and I, it's a bit of a reunion because we were in the studio October of last year.
No, 23.
2023 it was. But roles reversed. She was the lead in the show that I was directing.
Yeah, nice. And of course, you guys know each other.
Yeah.
And so, Lily, how's it been for you coming? It's first time at PTC.
It's been incredible. Everyone's so friendly and supportive, and a lot of people know that I don't usually tend to do theatre, so I'm really stepping outside of my comfort zone.
What do you normally do?
More film and TV.
Right.
I'm more of a screen actor. I did do some theatre growing up though.
Well, screen and theatre acting is obviously very different, but
Yes.
I guess in the studio it's probably the closest you'll get to screen because it's very naturalistic in there.
So the only main thing is the projection, because I'm
Right.
so used to having a mic under my chin where I'm saying I'm too loud, and now it's the complete opposite. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, project. So yeah, getting used to that has been fun. No.
And what about you, my darling? Now this is one of your largest roles that you've had to date, is that right?
It is. I think, yeah, it's on a par with my role in Box Set-ish, but it's the most intense role I've done. I love comedy because I like making people laugh, but I have a particular joy in this level of drama because, and the studio space is a fantastic space, and I've sort of talked to friends about this. It's great getting feedback from an audience, hearing them laugh, but there is nothing quite like feeling silence and feeling an audience that doesn't, like, that you can hear when an audience doesn't want to breathe, and I think that's what you'll have in this show.
I was going to say,
It's
so
that
what
tension.
can audiences expect?
I would say the feeling of claustrophobia almost.
Yeah.
It's very tense. You're going to be on the edge of your seats for sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we've got an incredible set on the way. I've seen the designs and similar to other shows that we've done, you will feel like you are in that flat with these characters. I expect that we'll see the audience squirm at times.
So you're going to be uncomfortable, going, oh,
Yeah, but you will be absolutely enthralled from start to finish. I can guarantee that.
absolutely. So, dear listener, it is on from the 18th to the 22nd of February in the studio. Now, I don't have to keep telling you this, but please buy your tickets now because the show will sell out, and I already looked at ticket sales before I came out tonight, and they are going quickly, my friends. So, go to www.putneyartstheatre.org.uk. So, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing your rehearsals.
This is a real Putney Theatre Company production. Do share the podcast with your friends and take a look at our website, searching online for the Putney Theatre Company. So that's it for now. See you next time.